Pursuing ideals. What if ideals were never meant to be attained? Sounds silly, doesn't it? Of course they're meant to be obtained. It is only ourselves that are lacking. Perhaps not. Perhaps, in fact, there is nothing lacking within ourselves at all. If an ideal was not meant to be attained, in other words, lacked the possibility of realization, which is one of the definitions of an ideal, then what good is it and why does it exist? An ideal in this context is created to serve the function of providing the hope of personal fulfillment, of attaining happiness and completion. But this is an illusion, an idea or concept based on wishes and hopes founded on the desire to fix a malady that the ideal really has nothing to do with and can't resolve. In any case, notice it's not working. Ever wonder why? We can see once again that the analogy of chasing an unattainable cheese fits here perfectly. Why is chasing after ideals never going to complete you? I go into this in detail in other books, but the short version boils down to the desire to attain some ideal is based on your sense of lack within. No attainment from without or anything adopted or attained by you, and more than likely pretended, can fix or change what's within. Only becoming completely okay with you as a being in this moment can eliminate this sense of being incomplete, not some imagined future attainment. The mass of beliefs and images we have that act as ideals are wired into our thinking, self-image, and self-concept. They act on us without any conscious effort on our part. We understand this better by recognizing that many patterns in our thinking are devoted to what we are not. An ideal is not something observed, but something imagined and idealized. Being wed to so many imagined ideals, we can't help but experience a huge sense of lack. We can't help but compare and contrast what isn't, fantasies of our future destiny, images of how we should be or how things should turn out, beliefs about what life should be like, standards to which we should measure up, and so on, with what is, or at least is perceived, and find the is lacking. By extension, we find ourselves and lives lacking. We remain separated from this cheese never meant to be attained and suffer in our ignorance and struggle. We are stuck with these beliefs, leaving us bereft of the qualities that suggest we are already what we should be. An ideal is largely used as something to indicate what we are not. At best, it provides a distraction from the false hope of resolution, with the false hope of resolution. At worst, it's something we use to beat ourselves up with because we find ourselves in our lives continuously lacking and may well embark on fruitless pursuits of resolution doomed to failure. It will take some contemplative efforts to discover all of your ideals. The doorway to such a practice is a non-judgmental feeling sensitivity to your innermost notions about yourself. The point here is that comparing yourself to ideals can't help but contribute to your nagging sense of being incomplete. Stop it. Consider if you live constantly awaiting future attainments to make you complete and happy, you can never be complete or happy. Given this future mythical resolution will never happen, throughout your whole life you will fail to be complete or to live fully until death does part you from the effort. Think about it. As a guided meditation, look into any ideals you have, in whatever form you have them. What do you hold should be the outcome of your life? What destiny do you think you should attain? Do you think would fulfill you if you could attain it? What should you be like? What is the perfect you? What sits in the background and goes mostly unacknowledged as what you don't have in life, what you aren't, even if this is not glamorous at all? Dig into it. Notice you compare your current experience to these ideas, and this makes your current experience of self and life less. Also, notice that all these are imagined concepts. They are only figments of mind. Stop insisting they are needed and they aren't needed. Stop comparing yourself to them and you aren't less than or missing anything. Consider these ideas and ideals to be just cheese you are chasing after, never to be attained. What happens to your experience when you acknowledge that possibility? Now consider no matter what happens in your life, it will all die when you do. How does that change your view of these ideals? Right now, stop comparing any ideal to your current experience. Eliminate all notions and ideas of something you must attain in order to be happy. When you do that, do you experience being complete and whole the way you are? Consider that without such concepts acting on your self experience, you are already complete. Okay, thank you. Inherent in the drive for attaining ideals is a need for meaning. It's not hard to see how this need might be another contributor to feeling incomplete. The need for meaning. If we presume that we should inherently have meaning, we would naturally expect meaning to fill our experience of self and life. Without meaning, why do we exist? What is life for? A life or self devoid of meaning is regarded as depressing, therefore, as something to seriously be avoided. Let's look anyway. Imagine that your existence is itself, that your actual being exists for itself. This might be said like you are because you are, or you exist because you exist. The only way something has meaning or value is in relation to something else. If we ask, what does an apple mean? What are we asking? We find we are stopped short. We need to ask, what do we mean by what does an apple mean? Unless we are referring to something other than the existence of the apple, the question doesn't make sense. This is because an apple doesn't mean anything, just being an apple. What does a person mean? What do you mean? Just like the apple, these questions have no relevance. We don't mean anything, just being. In order to determine our meaning, we have to look at our relationship to our community or our value or usefulness in relationship to something else. For an example, an apple is valuable to us as a food item. It is valuable to the apple tree as a reproductive organ. And if we use the apple to play ball, it would be useful for playing catch. But what does the apple mean? Unless we apply some meaning to the apple's existence, we can't really determine such a thing. If we can't say what kind of tool it could be used for, what function it might serve, or what destiny we can imagine for it, all of which are relations of the apple to something else, which as to ourselves, such as to ourselves, the tree, a game, or an ideal, we can find no meaning whatsoever. The apple simply exists. Without relationship or comparison, without ascribing a use or value, there is no inherent meaning in the apple all by itself. It is simply being an apple. It has no meaning. When we apply meaning to the apple, we miss the experience of the apple just being an apple. Meaning is a secondary application. Does the apple deserve apple rights? Does it deserve fulfillment, or to feel good, or to have its way? Obviously, it would be impossible to tell what that could be, but even if we could, it would be ridiculous to assume that apples deserve anything beyond being an apple. It is equally absurd To presume that we deserve anything or require value just in the course of being. Being has no meaning, it just is. Therefore, we have no inherent meaning. We simply are. To our ears, this might sound like a negative, but it isn't negative at all. Meaninglessness doesn't mean less meaning or negative meaning. Meaningless means without meaning. It has no meaning. Therefore, we are inherently free of meaning. Realizing this should immediately end our struggle for meaning. Do you grasp how that works? It might sound depressing to hear that you have no meaning or worth, but the good news is that although you have no worth, you absolutely cannot be worthless. Since value is a function of use, it is artificially applied to things. It is secondary and not inherent in anything. This asserts that it is impossible for anyone to be inherently worthless. It also means that one cannot have value. The whole issue of value and worth, of meaning and significance, is a social issue. It is not applicable to being. One simply is what one is. Without artificial comparisons, you are independent of value and meaning. Better or worse cannot apply to is. Think about it. Better or worse than what? More or less valuable than what? You see that unless you compare your mere existence to something else or to an ideal, such assessments have no meaning. Would you cease to exist if everyone thought you were worthless? Would you begin to exist if everyone thought you were great? Of course not. Did you exist before you had any notion of good or bad, self consciousness, knowledge, worth, or any judgments whatsoever? Of course you did. So obviously, you aren't any of it. Your being exists as itself, for itself. The rest is secondary. The point is that feeling incomplete because you can't find meaning is a mistake. If there is no meaning to being, then no meaning can be found. This is not cause for depression, it is simply the truth. Instead of having a negative relationship to this condition, you can find reason to celebrate the freedom it affords. It is the same dynamic that we saw occurring with not knowing. Whenever we designate some inherent condition of our own being as a negative, we are compelled to deny and resist that condition, separating us from a genuine experience of our own existence. In this way, we experience it as a malady that needs fixing, but it isn't a malady, it is what is. Not knowing and being incomplete. We've seen that whenever we look deep within, we can always find a sense of not knowing in one form or another. However it appears, the bottom line is that our experience doesn't include a direct knowledge of the most fundamental aspects of existence, including ours. Given our shared assumption that this somehow points to a defect, we naturally feel discomfort and perhaps even a bit of panic when we encounter it. Since this condition is seen as an existential malady that must be resolved, our solution is believed to exist outside ourselves and our current condition. Therefore, in this way, we see ourselves as incomplete as we are. As must be obvious by now, not knowing is a normal aspect of being human. Whenever we set up an antagonistic relationship to our own natural condition, we will continue to run into problems. Because we actually don't know how we came to be, what we really are, or what life is, we are drawn to make stuff up. Most of our shared world is invented, but almost no one recognizes this, even though we all participate within it. It's difficult to recognize this dynamic for what it is. Because we live primarily within an invented reality, we fail to see that we are still ignorant of what's fundamentally true about our existence. We are clear that we exist. We just don't know how we came to exist or the ultimate nature of existence. Given these remain unanswered questions, we are bound to sense a very profound ignorance at the deepest levels of our consciousness. This ignorance evokes a sense of disconnection from the very root of our existence and so adds to our sense of being incomplete. Doesn't it seem strange that our everyday experience should seem separate from the deepest aspects of ourselves and reality? Contrary to our culturally popular assumption that asserting an opinion or taking a particular belief about these ultimate matters will somehow resolve one's place in the universe, actually, the opposite is true. Standing on the artificial ground of hearsay or opinion, no matter how seriously or reverently it's done, actually places us in a position of pretense. It forces us to ignore our ignorance and binds us to a conceptual overlay that might seem like a ship come to our rescue, but is no such thing. As long as we can get our minds to believe some given answer in all seriousness, we might be able to fool our sensibilities and psychology into perceiving reality as being consistent with such beliefs. But if we question the truth in any way, our lack of personal and authentic experience at the root of self and reality will emerge, and we are likely to feel lacking or defective. In truth, we are neither lacking nor defective. We are simply ignorant.